Rick Sanchez is by far the smartest character in any popular show or movie. Our IQ system couldn't even measure his intelligence. But in terms of real-world science, how smart would you have to be to invent interdimensional travel? Since he's basically a god, let's measure this in the closest possible terms we can. The energy output of an entire species, aka the Kardashev scale, which has 3 types in case you didn't know. Type 1, planetary, which means a species is able to harvest all of the energy available on a planet. Type 2 means we can harvest all of the energy in our star system, and Type 3, able to harvest all of the energy in their galaxy. We are currently type 0.7 as an entire species. So where exactly does Rick fall? Well, no surprise, but he definitely lands at the very least as a type 4 on the expanded Kardashev scale, meaning able to harvest the energy of the entire visible universe. But in order to understand why, we'll need to know just how hard it is to travel interdimensionally. But let's start with what a dimension even is. Under M-theory, there are actually 11 total dimensions required to explain our universe and its laws of physics as they exist. 10 spatial, and of course, 1 time. We know what the first 4 dimensions do in our universe. They give us space and time. The 7 additional dimensions of M-theory all provide an essential function that makes our laws of physics, things like gravity and electromagnetism, possible. They do this using the idea of fundamental strings. Fundamental meaning, stop asking what they're made of. This is the ground level of reality for right now. Which has been true before for atoms. They were the ground level of reality for a while. Then smaller subatomic particles like protons and neutrons were our ground level for a bit. Then we realized that protons and neutrons were made of quarks. And for a good while now, that has been the bottom of reality. But now, famously, string theory and M-theory both posit that the new ground of reality are vibrating strings. We have here a 2D string. It can only vibrate in these 2 dimensions. But imagine if it was a 3D string. You could hold between your index finger and thumb and shake around. It would be able to move about in 3 dimensions instead of just 2. In other words, there are different waveforms to the vibration of the string based on the number of dimensions available to it. So give the string a 4th or 5th dimension, and you allow for additional waveforms within the strings, and therefore additional particles or forces. Picture that 2D world from Carl Sagan's analogy. Now imagine that a super being came down with the powers to manipulate reality and decided to add a 3rd dimension, but to this 2D world. But when they did it, they chose to only add a single Planck length worth of distance to this 3rd dimension. On top of which, they decided to add a Pac-Man effect, where if you went too far to one side of that dimension, you would just emerge on the other. They're connected, or looped. Would the 2D inhabitants be able to tell that a 3rd dimension was even added? The answer is no. The 3rd dimension technically exists now for them, and it spans their entire world. But it's just so small that they will never be able to access it or even be aware of it. Now take that same idea and apply it to 6 of the 7 extra dimensions that M-theory implies. All of a sudden, you have extra dimensions where the fundamental vibrating strings that form our reality have more wiggle room, so to speak, to create more forces and particles. But what about that last dimension? The 11th one. It's probably the most fascinating dimension of all, as it would not be the tiny Planck length size that the others are. It would be an additional large-scale dimension that served an extremely sci-fi purpose. The theory goes that in this 11-dimensional space, our universe would exist on a sort of floating object called a brane, a word lazy scientists picked based off the word membrane. Fun fact, they also chose to use p as the variable letter when referring to an unknown number of dimensions in a brane. So let's say you didn't know how many dimensions a brane was. Instead of saying X brane or Y brane like most of us would, they chose P-brain, because all scientists are dads, I think. Anyways, our universe would exist on this 3-brane, since our universe has 3 spatial dimensions. But branes can exist in a variety of dimensions. The most interesting thing about branes, though, is that in the 11th dimension, they may collide with other branes. In fact, there's a chance this may even be what caused the Big Bang. So now that we've made it this far, let's ask the best question. Would we be able to visit these other branes? These other dimensions, as sci-fi writers like to call them. Well, the amount of energy we need to be able to break free from our brain alone is so large we cannot calculate it yet. On top of which, we don't even have any remote ideas of how to navigate or protect ourselves from any higher dimensional space, let alone 11-dimensional space. You would need so much energy that we don't have a way to measure it yet. More energy than even a Type 4 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Meaning that if Rick has harnessed enough energy to traverse the multiverse, his portal tech has to contain more power than any hypothetical super tech we've ever come up with theoretically or even in sci-fi up to this point. The Dyson sphere, one of our biggest concepts, a megastructure surrounding the sun, producing about 1 million years worth of Earth's electricity needs every single second, is nothing compared to the portal gun. How close do you think we are to building something like a Dyson sphere? Most scientists would say we are over 1,000 years away, even considering the exponential growth of technology. If we had built a Dyson sphere, we would have dismantled a planet by then, and his portal gun makes that entire megastructure look like child's play. So Rick as an individual is smarter than the entire human species put together, even thousands of years into the future. And he's so much smarter than these future humans that they still couldn't even dream of the power requirements of his portal gun. That's crazy. How do you put a measurement on intelligence like that? I mean, honestly, it's just... Thank you so much for watching. I wanted to show a little demo of how I do my animating for this, since I know people are passionate about not supporting this type of slop, and instead support newbie animators slop like this. As you can see, I use OpenTunes for my animation. It's a simple rig, but it does the trick. I'm not doing anything crazy for this, since I just want to have a self-insert animated host, and I was aiming for a combination of the animation styles of the shows I cover. But I even based the outfit on what I was wearing the day I animated this. To be honest, even a basic animation like this is a lot more effort than just being on camera. But I'm a little camera shy, and I also just enjoy animation, a passion I didn't realize I had until far too late in life. My wife and I are even working on this anime project that I'll probably never finish, but I am very happy with the results. If you'd like an entry point into the software, I'd recommend TJ Free's OpenTunes playlist. It's not everything, but it's a solid starting point. Thanks again everyone for watching, and if you've made it this far, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.